Hi, welcome back. So after joining the last jam and seeing the warm reception on the video I made about it, I was like, well, that was fun, let's do another one. So I went back to itch.io and picked a Game Jam. Game Jam. Wait, Jam Gam? Okay, sure. So anyways, I joined an event, and let's see. This one requires a theme and a special object to appear in game. Ooh, necromancy. And needle. Ah, yes, I use those words in the same sentence all the time. This should be easy. So I sat down and started thinking for a bit. I got it. We'll make a game where you play as a necromancer on an evil quest to conquer the kingdom with a skeleton army commanded by the powerful Soul Weaver, aka a magic needle and thread with the ability to attack enemies, raise the dead, and command them to do your bidding. This is a unique twist on your typical game in the strategy genre. So instead of each member going once every turn, my idea is to allow any number of team members to act in any order as long as we have the thread and the Soul Weaver to spin on commands. The scope will have to be smaller since we have just 5 days to turn in the finished game. So we can't implement all the mechanics we see in Fire Emblem, for example. But we all know how it tends to go with game jams. But wait, how's the Soul Weaver work? Well, we'll just telepathically control the Soul Weaver with the mouse, piercing the souls of those we want to manipulate. And faraway commands will cost more thread, while nearby ones are cheaper. This makes positioning units serve an entirely different strategic purpose than your traditional strategy game. You'll see what I mean in a bit. Let's get started. So I hopped into Godot and got to work. I decided to first focus on the meat and potatoes of the game, the units, and the Soul Weaver. So I added the Necromancer, Skeleton, and enemy sprites along with the Soul Weaver following the mouse. Now the main ability of this game is to command our allies by piercing them with a needle and little clusters, and then directing them to a location or enemy to attack. Let's try implementing that. I also wanted the ability to attack enemies directly with the Soul Weaver, like a little slash attack, in cases where there are no allies. So we got the needle following the mouse and all that, but it just feels too rigid. Let's see if we can make it more satisfying to control. Okay, now it lags behind a bit because we're lerping instead of moving straight to the mouse position. It feels a little more natural now. I also ended up lerping the rotation so it points to the targets we're aiming at. Alright, now we need to figure out how to get them to find their way around the map. And since our units are locked to a grid in this game, it is perfect use case for the A-star algorithm. And thankfully we don't have to implement this ourselves, since Godot has a nice built-in A-star class that has just about everything we need to get the grid pathfinding working. All we have to do is register the cells to the A-star object, connect the neighbor cells, and then disable any cells that are occupied or have obstacles. This setup, paired with get point path, covers almost all of the pathfinding we need in the game. I just had to add some extra logic to allow future ranged attacks. Also, we want our allies to have movement only limited by our thread length, but the enemies don't have this luxury and shouldn't be able to walk more than a certain number of tiles at once. We want to highlight where our enemies can travel to know which ones are safe, and unfortunately we can't throw A-star at this again. Let me introduce you to flood fill. This algorithm looks just like water flooding and is perfect for highlighting all cells up to a certain distance away, taking into account obstacles as well. To implement, we just explore a queue of valid neighbor cells we build up and stop once we've seen all that we've needed to see. Alright, I know what you're thinking. This is S tier art. It's like a complete game already. Which is why I've decided to just go ahead and submit my game. I've peaked. Just kidding, this art is trash. Let's fix it. I decided to go with some 16x16 art assets. But after noticing my first attempt at a skeleton was pretty ugly, I ended up switching to 32x32, which I figured would help make the art more convincing. And here's the new skeleton dude, not bad, right? I decided to make the necromancer dark-robed wizard with a hood shadowing his face. And for the enemies, I went with armored knights. Alright, the game's really starting to take shape, now that we have some better art in place. Okay, next up is animations. Let's give our units some idle animations and maybe add some graves for the skeletons to resurrect from. We also need some health bars to track our unit's HP. And maybe we'll throw some other tweaks in as well. Sweet, it's looking good. There are still some things to clean up in the game before we start adding some levels. We need more organic borders between the path and grass, for example. Also, I just added some skeleton ranged attacks, so now they should stop and throw their arm at their enemy. Let's see if this works. Hey, nice, it worked. Wait a sec, is he okay? I'm gonna have to fix that. I then added some obstacles to the game. Starting with minerals. Okay, looks alright. Might need some more work later, but we'll just move on for now. I also added a cool combo mechanic that rewards the player with extra damage for chaining more commands in a single thread. And then later walls and flooring to make buildings like castles later on. I made a base level scene with all the tools I needed, and then the rest was relatively easy. I was down to just a few hours left, so I locked in and added a title and end screen using this cool fire shader I found. I think it goes well with the mood I set with the orchestral piece I wrote. Stick around for a bit if you want to hear the whole piece. I made 12 levels total and then concluded the game with a giant final level with a large castle filled with several strong enemies. I made the last one kind of tricky, so let me know in the comments if you're able to beat it. And that's all I could jam into my game before the time ran out and I had to submit. This jam was another fun one. I was proud of what I'd made and lots of great games were submitted. Be sure to check out the games and the links in the description down below. And after a jam, I always consider what could be done to improve the game. And being a jam game, it probably isn't surprising to hear that the code is total spaghetti.
Somebody touch my spaghetti!
So a refactor into some nice lasagna would be great if I were to continue working on this game. And with pretty much any game, there's always room for new mechanics or levels. I actually started listing some ideas here, so let me know if you have any more I could add. And also let me know if you guys think this one has potential as a full game or not. I could see it being turned into a cool little mobile game, personally. If you made it this far, let me know what you think and what vids you'd like to see in the comments below. Thanks for watching.